There are basically 5 things we want you to look for and understand in your medical professional liability policy. So if you don't have a digital copy, go get one, and then we recommend you grab your favorite caffeinated beverage before we begin. As a medical provider, here are the top 5 things you should be looking for in your policy to avoid the pitfalls of gaps in your coverage that could cost you a lot of time and money. Number 1, consent. I can sue you and you have to agree you want to pay me something. If you leave this up to the insurance company, they may think it's better to settle than to go to court, even if you did nothing wrong. But this is reported to the medical board and it goes against your career. You want to have control of consent. You want to be able to say, absolutely not. I didn't do anything wrong. I want you to go and hire an attorney and I want to fight it. It's a really big deal. So search your policy using the term consent. Number 2, exclusions. Search your digital policy for the term exclusions. Insurance companies, more often than not, will have addendums to the policy that create exclusions for types of procedures or scenarios. Some policies have location limitations, so if you're mobile or if you change practice locations, this may create a gap of coverage. 3, limits of liability. You're insuring your career, your assets, and your reputation. So know your limits of liability. Know how much you have backing you up if you have to file a claim. Number 4, defense. Some policies use the term defense. Some policies group the term defense into expenses. So search your digital policy for both terms and find out whether defense is included inside the limit or outside the limit. This is a big deal, and let me tell you what I mean by that. So a recent case we saw damages or injury costs were about $750,000. Expenses to defend the case were nearly $300,000. So if you had a policy for $1 million with defense costs inside the limit, your policy would stop at the $1 million limit and you'd be responsible for the additional $50,000 in expenses. So if your policy is a $1 million policy with defense costs outside the limit, then your policy would cover everything in its entirety. Number 5, hammer clause. You may know what a hammer clause is, but I find most medical providers aren't familiar with this term. And you can't search for this term in your policy, I'm afraid, but I'll tell you how you can search for it. So if you purchase a policy for $1 million with a hammer clause, just know you aren't purchasing a policy with $1 million limit. When an offer to settle is received, your policy limit is hammered down to that settlement offer. So for instance, if an offer to settle for $300,000 is received, your policy limit goes from $1 million down to $300,000. So the term you want to search for in your policy is settlement, and you'll want to read the fine print. We always recommend reading and understanding your medical professional liability coverage before you sign any contract. And if this is all too complex, then we get it. We talk to provider after provider who has the same problem as you do. If you want to take the complexity out of difficult insurance decisions, get practical advice you can use to make insurance coverage decisions with confidence, call our agency or go to presidioinsurance.com/review and get a check all the boxes coverage review today.